Hey, this is Austin from Points Unknown TV, back with another episode on my Tenere 700. This time I am going to be installing lowering links from Rally Raid. Looking to find myself just a little more stability with putting my feet on the ground. I have a 32-inch inseam and I'm on my tiptoes on this bike, maneuvering it around, and I just want to be a little closer to flat-footed just to increase my confidence. I went with the lowering links from Rally Raid. Here they are. They look thick and stout. I'll check those out in a second, and we'll get those installed. Here are all those lowering links from Rally Raid. Pretty sweet. Ordered them from Rocky Mountain ATV and MC, and it came very quickly. Again, these are around $50, including shipping, and yeah. Here they are. They look pretty stout, so I'm pretty excited about these. Nice and thick metal, and they should be fairly simple to install. Step one is to lift the back tire up off the ground so we can install the lowering link. If you have a center stand, that works great. Otherwise, a floor jack or a bike lift like I'm using is the tool for the job. So our new lowering links will replace the existing lowering links there with new longer links that we got from Rally Raid, and yeah, let's get those old lowering links off so we can get them replaced. First step is to remove these two bolts so that we can get the lowering links off. It's a 17mm bolt on each side of the lowering links, and there's not a lot of clearance, especially if you leave the exhaust on like I'm trying to do here, so you just have to use short sockets and or just a box end wrench on each side, and yeah, get those bolts off. Technical removal method. Didn't even need the bolt on the other side. There it goes. So that's these guys. So now I've got all the bolts. It's a bolt and a washer, or nut and a washer. Both of those coming off. So now I've got that part out. Bolts look good. Maybe we'll grease them a little bit to make them slide in a little bit easier, but that's what was in there. So for comparison purposes, just the stock links versus the low links from Rally Raid. You can see they are both thicker and wider, and just a little bit longer. So that's what brings them to make them lower. So there wasn't really any grease on the bolts before, but I just wanted to go easy, so I'm gonna go ahead and use some general purpose lithium grease on the bolts to just make them slide in that much easier. So again, just a little bit of grease here on the bolt itself, not on the head. I'm gonna not put any on the bolt head because I'm going to, or on the threaded part, because I want to make sure that I can use Loctite, and I don't want that to affect it. Just a little bit of grease on here, make the bolt slide on, and maybe just a little bit easier. And now that we got that on there, slides right in. That's easy. Sometimes you have to compress the rear shock and everything to get it to go, but it seems like in this case it just worked. Bolt just slid right in. So fortunately that slid right through. So now we can take the other lowering link. Put it on, and again, sometimes you have to compress the rear shock, but in this case, these just really want to fit. So I'm not going to argue there. Clean off the threads here, and then apply some blue Loctite. And then washers, and then bolts, or nuts rather. Apparently there's some discrepancies on the torque for the bolts, depending on where you read. Yamaha says 60 Newton meters, and then the lowering link manufacturer says 48 or so Newton meters. I'm using Loctite, so I think the lower number is reasonable, especially since I'm not sure how long I'll keep these on or if I will keep them on indefinitely. So, going with 48 Newton meters. So that looks pretty good. Got 2 bolts on, Loctited, good to go. All right, next we're going to adjust the front fork. To do that, I'm going to take the weight off the front wheel. I know the front wheel is off the ground just barely. So next I want to measure. I'm gonna bring the forks up through the fork triple clamps a little bit, probably about 15 millimeters to balance out the lower. But I want to see where they're at right now so that I can measure and know where they're going to be in the future. And if I don't like it, for whatever reason, make it easy to move back. So using the caliper, looks like they're currently sitting right around 9.3 millimeters is where they're at. If I'm going to add 15, then that would be 24.3. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen the pinch bolts. The upper bolts on this are very loose, and the lower is a little bit tighter, but it's like they're both supposed to be 17 foot-pounds, I think, and they don't feel like it. So now that everything's nice and loose, these things should be moving. Everything moves fairly well. And then what I like to do, and see if we can get in the shot, is lower down front of the bike on the stand, so we can just slowly move it in position. You can see just a little bit of movement there as I move it down, and that should just slowly lower it down as needed. That's where we want it to be, right there. Again, 24.27 millimeters. So now it's just about tightening everything down. .23 Newton meters on the top. All right, and 20 on the bottom. One of the things I was worried about was the kickstand being too long, and with the lowering of 20 millimeters, I mean, it's not as stable as it used to be on the kickstand, and I mean, I can push on it, it's not going anywhere. So I'm not going to get a shorter kickstand just yet, because as you can see, I can push on the bike a little bit and it doesn't fall over. I feel like there's quite a bit of debate about the validity of using lowering links or modifying the geometry of the bike or changing what the manufacturer intended. But really, in the end, I feel like part of the magic of motorcycling is making your ride, and no one else is riding it but you. So for me personally, if I want to lower the bike, I'm going to try it out, because my ride's my ride, and to each their own. As far as losing ground clearance goes, I know the Tenere 700 starts at about 9.5 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty good for an adventure bike. I compare that to about 8.5 inches on the Africa Twin, and just over 9 inches on the KTM 890. And so I think that I'm not really losing a lot by losing 20 millimeters from the 9.5 inches that the bike starts with. I'll go down to about 8.7 inches there. Certainly it wouldn't be a consideration if I was considering a much larger lowering link. that wraps up this episode of Points Unknown TV, where I installed lowering links from Rally Raid on my Yamaha Tenere 700. As you can see, the process was very straightforward and pretty easy to do. Should take around 30 minutes or so for you to install. And it's also easily reversible if I decide that I want to bring the bike back up to its stock position. All I have to do is change out the links in the back and raise the forks out of the triple clamps another 15 millimeters to that 9.3 millimeters that it was in the stock position. That's it. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. If you want more Points Unknown information, check out pointsunknown.com. We update that blog regularly. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on down the trail.